The royal family portrait is perfect. The smiles are warm. The children are adorable. Everyone looks like one big, happy unit. But here's the thing about perfect photographs, they are staged. And right now, behind those palace walls, there's a war brewing. Not between nations. Not between political rivals. Between Catherine and Queen Camila. Over an 8-year-old girl. What happened at Windsor Castle wasn't just a misunderstanding. It wasn't a clash of personalities. It was a mother realizing that someone in her own family had been slowly, quietly, methodically chipping away at her daughter's confidence. And Catherine did something the royal family rarely does. She fought back. It started at a private family luncheon. Nothing unusual. Multiple generations under one roof. The usual mix of royals who don't always get along perfectly. Catherine knows these events. She knows when to smile, when to nod, when to excuse herself. But that morning, she noticed something. Charlotte was quiet. Not sick quiet. Not tantrum quiet. The kind of quiet where a child is trying to make themselves invisible. For Charlotte, who's typically confident and chatty, this was the first red flag. The children were set up in a side salon for afternoon tea. Catherine got Charlotte settled. Kissed her forehead. Left the room. Everything seemed fine. 45 minutes later. Catherine was mid-conversation when she saw Charlotte walking past an open door. And the look on that little girl's face stopped her cold. No tears. But pale. Mouth pressed tight. Emotionally bruised in a way that's harder to fix than physical hurt. Catherine excused herself mid-sentence. Royal protocol shattered without a second thought. She followed Charlotte to a quiet hallway and found her standing alone, hands clasped, staring at the floor. What happened? Nothing. Classic kid response. But Catherine crouched down. Eye level. Sweetheart, I know when something's wrong. And then Charlotte told her. Granny Camila had told her she was showing off. Told her not to speak unless she was spoken to. All because Charlotte had helped Louis with an answer during a guessing game. Just being an older sister. Camila got annoyed. Over a guessing game. Over a child helping her younger brother. But that was just the beginning. Later that day, during a family walk, Catherine was watching. Cataloguing. Evidence gathering. And then the scone incident. Charlotte reached for a second scone at tea. A child wanted a baked good. Camila turned, glanced down, and said with that half-smile. Perhaps one is enough, darling. We don't want to appear greedy. Who says that to an 8-year-old? Who looks at a child reaching for food and decides that's the moment to police her body and her appetite? But the tone mattered. It wasn't warm. It wasn't gentle. It was a correction wrapped in a smile. Designed to sound reasonable out of context, but in the moment, it landed like a slap. Catherine saw it clearly now. These weren't isolated incidents. This was a pattern. That evening, the adults moved to the sitting room. The kids were allowed in briefly. Charlotte sat quietly with a book. Then politely asked Camila if she could play the piano. Camila's response? Darling, that's not necessary. Let the grown-ups enjoy some peace. Why don't you sit still like a proper young lady? The words dismissive. The delivery sharp. Designed to put a child in her place without technically saying anything cruel. Charlotte's cheeks flushed. She closed her book. Folded her hands. Catherine heard everything from where she was standing. And this time, she didn't look away. She stared at Camila. Held the stare long enough that Camila noticed. Their eyes met. Camila looked away first. That night at Adelaide Cottage, Catherine tucked Charlotte in. Were you upset today? Charlotte hesitated. Said she was okay. Catherine told her she didn't have to pretend. And Charlotte said it directly. Granny Camila doesn't like when I talk too much. There it was. No confusion. No ambiguity. An 8-year-old had perfectly understood the message being sent to her. Catherine kissed Charlotte's forehead. Walked down the hall to William's study. When he asked if Charlotte was okay. She's trying to be. Then she told him everything. Every cold remark. Every dismissive comment. Every effort to silence or shrink Charlotte's presence. William listened without interrupting. His jaw set. He agreed this couldn't slide. But they had to handle it carefully. You don't storm into a royal confrontation without thinking it through. The next morning, Catherine made her first move. Camila had arranged a charity garden project for the royal grandchildren. Catherine requested Charlotte stay home. Official excuse, a minor cold. The truth, Catherine wasn't putting her daughter in that space again. Word got back to Camila. Her response? Probably too delicate for a little mud. Catherine heard about that too. Because royal households talk constantly. Tension building. Catherine drawing her line. Camila being dismissive. It was all about to come to a head. The following weekend at Highgrove. Charles invited them for a private dinner. Charlotte came along to say good night to her grandfather. When she walked in. Good evening, Granny. Camila barely looked up. Are you sure you're not too tired to be here? Thinly veiled jab. Everyone heard it. Catherine's expression didn't change dramatically. But something in her stillness shifted the entire mood of the room. She turned to Charlotte calmly. Why don't you say good night to Grandpa and head upstairs with Anna? Charlotte hugged Charles and left. The door clicked shut. Silence. Camila sat back with her wine. Well, she's very sensitive, isn't she? William froze. Charles shifted uncomfortably. Catherine stepped forward. Every word chosen with absolute precision. No. She's not too sensitive. She's a child. And she deserves to be spoken to with kindness. Camila raised her brow. Tried to deflect. She was just surprised Charlotte was still up. Catherine didn't blink. It's not just tonight. It's been happening for weeks. I've heard what's been said to her. And so has she. Charles tried to intervene. Catherine cut him off. Calm. Firm. If it were just one comment, we'd move on. But it's not one comment. It's a pattern. And I won't stand by while my daughter is made to feel less than. Camila looked at William, expecting him to smooth things over. His silence said more than words could. Catherine continued, I've tried to keep peace because that's what's expected of me. But this involves Charlotte. And I won't let anyone, no matter who they are, undermine her confidence. Camila tried one more time. Children are resilient. Catherine was reading too much into things. Catherine's response was perfect. Children remember how they are spoken to. Especially by those who are supposed to protect them. No shouting. No theatrics. Just the voice of a mother who had drawn a line. William finally spoke. We're asking for basic respect. Charlotte hasn't done anything wrong. She's just being herself. That shouldn't be a problem. Camila looked at Charles. But Charles was silent now too. Catherine had laid down a boundary. There was no going back. Upstairs, Catherine held Charlotte's hand. You did nothing wrong. You were polite. You were kind. That's all I'll ever ask of you. Charlotte looked up. I tried to be. Catherine told her she didn't have to try to be perfect. She just had to be herself. In the days that followed, Catherine made her boundaries clear. Charlotte had a recital at Lamrook. Catherine invited only immediate family. Camila was not included. Palace phrasing, scheduling conflict. Inside knowledge, everyone knew exactly what it meant. Balmoral. Charles' escape. The late Queen's favorite spot. This year, Catherine agreed to come but with boundaries. she wouldn't leave Charlotte alone with Camila again. First few days were calm. Charlotte began to relax. Chatty at breakfast. Running through fields with George and Louis. But then the moment Catherine had been dreading. She was in the drawing room. William had gone fishing. Children in the garden. First time Catherine had taken her eyes off them. A household aide leaned in. "I believe Princess Charlotte is in the sunroom with Her Majesty." Catherine's posture stiffened. She excused herself. Walked briskly. As she approached, she heard voices. "We don't always need to speak over others, Charlotte. It's important to listen. Sometimes your mommy forgets that too." Camila was saying that to an 8-year-old. About her mother. Catherine opened the door. "There you are," she said evenly. "I was looking for you, darling." Charlotte got up immediately. Walked straight to her mother. "Camila, I was just having a word." "I heard," Catherine replied. Camila started to say Charlotte was only. Catherine cut in. Still calm. She was only being a child. And she doesn't need to be corrected for that every time she speaks. Camila folded her arms. "I've raised children. I know when a girl's growing too fast for her own good. She's growing up just fine. And she'll do so without being made to feel like a problem. No shouting. Just clarity. I'd like a bit more kindness around her. That shouldn't be too much to ask." Camila didn't speak. Her silence calculated. But Catherine didn't care anymore. She had spent years protecting the institution. Now her focus had shifted to something more important. Protecting her daughter. By the end of that week, palace staff noticed the change. Camila kept her distance. At meals, she sat farther away. She didn't comment on behavior, clothes, or tone. Subtle. But in the royal world, subtlety means everything. Catherine hadn't exploded. Hadn't caused a scandal. But her presence had drawn a line no one could miss. Charles knew better than to intervene again. He adored both women, but he understood that when Catherine stood her ground, she did so with reason and finality. That summer ended with the usual photos. Family on the castle steps. Smiling for the press. But inside, things had permanently changed. Camila had lost something she didn't even realize was slipping. Catherine's willingness to tolerate things for the sake of appearance. That tolerance was gone. And here's my honest take on all of this. We spend so much time watching the royal family through the lens of drama and protocol and tradition. We analyze their outfits. We decode their body language. We treat them like characters in a show. But moments like this, they remind us of something we forget. Behind the titles and the palaces and the centuries of tradition, there's a mother protecting her daughter. Not a princess. Not a future queen. A mother. Catherine didn't fight for herself. She didn't fight for status or position or influence. She fought for Charlotte. So her daughter would never feel small. Never feel like she had to shrink herself to be acceptable. Never doubt that she was enough exactly as she is. And that's not a royal story. That's every mother's story. That's a human story.